you want us to deal with, just put the comments in. That would be great. And one of our Facebook pages is on the move here. Here we go. So again, when it comes to emotional state management, I'm a real fan of literature outside of neurolinguistic programming, and I'm a real fan of one researcher in particular, Lisa Feldman Barrett, when it comes to emotional state management. And Lisa states really clearly, her research is profound, that our emotions are a prediction of how we should react when we encounter a stimulus. And so thinking that through and reading her work over and over, one of the benefits of NLP is that we help the brain have new predictions of how we should behave in response to a stimulus. And I think that's a really important, powerful thing to know. So, because that presupposes then we have some input into how we're going to react the next time we encounter a particular stimulus. A stimulus being anything we see, we hear, we feel, we smell, or we taste. So the first step in managing our emotional states is to break state. Now, the more times we do this technique of moving from negative emotional state into a positive emotional state, our brain now learns to predict that we don't have to stay in a stuck emotional state. We can quickly and easily move into a resourceful state. And this is the real power of it. It's nice to know this technique, to know you can break state with intention, but it's also powerful to know that if you do it often enough, this new pattern of breaking state, getting calm, moving to a positive state will become your new normal. It will become your new brain's prediction. When I encounter a stimulus that normally would have made me in a negative emotional state or caused me to enter it, my brain can now predict that, I might experience that briefly, but I'll quickly move to breaking state, calm state, positive emotional state. And so again, the 3 steps are very easy. We want to break the emotional state, so we look up. Looking up in and of itself helps break the state. Seeing something, imagining seeing a mobile telephone number up on a billboard, yours, and then reading it backwards engages areas of your brain that breaks the negative emotional state. And again, I've done this hundreds of times in demonstrations live with people, and the people I've trained have gone on to do it hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times with other people. It works all the time. So there we have the break state. Now, once you've broken state and you're looking up, it'd be great to enter into a light meditative or a very calm state. We do that by going into peripheral vision, by focusing on a spot and staring at the spot and keeping our head and eyes steady, seeing everything around us come into focus up front. And as we see everything in front of us, we start to hear all the sounds around us, beside us, above us, in front and back. And then notice the feelings that we feel when we're in this state. Feeling of our fabric, the clothing on us, the room temperature, what we're sitting, and our own physical state. Start to notice how we feel. We're in what Eckhart Tolle calls in the now. We are definitely in the moment. Now, when you're in the moment, this is a deeply calm place. And you'll notice, those of you who are aware, you'll notice your breathing start to slow down. It'll drop from your chest into your diaphragm. And as your breathing drops from your chest to your diaphragm, you'll notice your heart rate starts to slow down. It's a beautiful gateway for those of you who do meditation. A beautiful process to get into a deeply meditative state is to enter into peripheral vision first. Now you're in peripheral vision, you're calm. Now you can fire your resource anchor that takes you and moves you in a positive resource state. Happy, joyful, confident, powerful. So moving easily, you break your state, go to a calm state, move to a positive state. Do that often enough, regularly enough. It will become your new pattern. Your brain will predict, hey, that used to trigger us into a bad state, and now it moves us easily and effortlessly into a new state. So there it is, the reminder of the day. And again, to do things to improve your immune system, I really recommend you look at Wim Hof's work. There are other people who talk about the power of breathing, and you can go online and learn that as well. But as a starting point, certainly look at Wim Hof. All right, look at Wim Hof. So good morning, everybody, and we're going to take requests here this morning. We've covered a lot of ground over the 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks we've been doing this. But if you have particular requests, we'll do that. And
So here's what we're hoping to have happen. We've been doing this for 2 weeks now, full weeks, 2.5. And we've always come up with what we're going to address based on what we're seeing out there. So I've mentioned before, we're paying close attention to how people are responding to this, how people are expressing themselves, both in really positive ways and in not so positive ways, right? The fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty. And we've been dealing with each of those subjects, using an NLP tool, an NLP frame, in order to give you some tools and ways to approach it. So what we thought we would do today for Friday is just to put it out there to those of you who are watching. And if there are specific things that you've run into that we haven't addressed already, or that are really important to you to be able to specifically deal with, we would invite you just to write in the comments, just anything, and we may just speak to it. We may just offer a perspective on it that's going to be through that NLP filter, or we may actually have a tool that we can share with you that you can use. So as we talk, what we're going to do is we're just going to actually talk about NLP, because one of the things that we haven't done,
that's all I talk about.
Many of you are already trained. So a lot of the people that have been watching us are peers of ours, are graduates of ours, are clients, people that we know in the NLP field. And yet there are some people for sure who have popped on who may appreciate just a really comprehensive kind of explanation of what neuro-linguistic programming is. And so we'll go through that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And as we do, feel free to just mention any issue that you're dealing with, and we'll address that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of amazing messaging on the internet right now about how to stay calm and how to move through this COVID-19 period, and it's beautiful messaging. And I read it, and it's inspiring. And sometimes, almost all the time, there isn't a tool available to actually implement the messaging. So, people will say, don't focus on something different, right? That's a great thing to suggest, but is there a tool to focus on? Now, we've talked about focus drives your behavior and creates your results. Your results are only feedback about what you're focusing on. But we also talked about that our beliefs and our values inform our focus, and how we can visit our beliefs and values and assess. So if you've seen a great posting somewhere, but there isn't a tool behind it to actually make the change that the post suggests, then put that in your comments, and we'll give you an NLP tool to actually implement what the people are suggesting. And that's one of the real beauties of NLP, is it is tool based. And the tools are based in rigorous psychological studies. So this combination of issues backed by psychology, arriving at tools that make change, it's a gift to have and available to us. So
NLP is short for, or it's an acronym for neuro-linguistic programming. And the difference between using an NLP approach and a more traditional counseling or even coaching tool is that we're working primarily with the unconscious mind as opposed to the conscious mind. So there's lots of good uses for the conscious mind. We talk about if you follow people like Eckhart Tolle and any of that realm of sort of mindfulness, you're going to run into a phrase where people talk about living consciously. And there is an absolutely extraordinary element, and we talk about it a lot, about being consciously aware of the decisions that you're making. Be conscious of staying in control of your life, staying at cause, moving towards the things that bring you pleasure and joy and all that kind of stuff. Those are all conscious decisions.
You can be consciously aware of the results you're getting, and yet unaware that your unconscious mind is leading you to those results.
But what's happening is that your unconscious is actually driving so much of your behavior, your responses, your emotions. And if you aren't living consciously, it means that you're basically allowing that unconscious part of you to be driving the bus. You're allowing the unconscious part of you to be making all of the decisions inside the machine, this internal machine, and you don't have any real conscious control of that. And when you put that together with the NLP work that we do, this is what differentiates us. This is what makes the work that we do different. So in NLP, we know that 90% of what you're experiencing at all times in your mind is unconscious. So some people call it subconscious. We prefer to call it unconscious, so it's not sub to anything. The unconscious mind is the part of you that is generating all the processes. If you can imagine an iceberg, the greatest part of the iceberg, 90% of it, is unconscious. And then there is 10% of your mind that is conscious. The thing is that you experience 100% of your experience consciously is actually only that 10%. So whenever people seek types of counseling, or what Alan was saying, those, when you see a little meme or proverb or a suggestion or tip or whatever, and many of you know the feeling of having it resonate with you 100%. Like you 100% agree with the statement or believe in its usefulness, or know that if you implemented this into your life that you would be a happier person. And yet, for some reason, you can't manage to do it, right? You can't manage to be it or act it or do it with consistency. And the reason for that is because you can be assured that it's true that you do 100% agree with it. It's just that you only have, in your thinking mind, you only have access to that 10%. So you can be 100% on side with something, while still that 90% underneath may have other ideas. It may have other responses or emotions about it or beliefs about it that were instilled so deeply in your unconscious that you don't have access to them. Yeah. And so when we work in NLP, we actually work with both. We work with the conscious mind. We're not hypnotherapy. If you did hypnosis or hypnotherapy, then you're talking about an approach that is almost entirely unconscious. And while NLP was actually born out of hypnosis, the idea of working with the unconscious mind as a more important part, we do also integrate it with the conscious mind, because there is an importance, as we mentioned, to be able to consciously make decisions. And
this is a really good point. I'm not a fan overtly of affirmations. When I hear people talk about doing affirmations, I often ask what kind of affirmations, because we create affirmations with our conscious mind. We write them down, and I've been privy to enough sales conferences and places where people talk about doing affirmations. Look in the mirror and tell yourself you're the best salesman in the world, best salesperson in the world. Well, if I said that, if I went out and said I'm the best NLP practitioner in the world, my unconscious mind knows that's not true. First, there's no way of testing it. There's no way of measuring it. So the claim, the affirmation that I'm the best NLP practitioner in the world cannot be true. My unconscious mind, the 90% or more, knows that. So no matter how many times I say it, I'm actually creating a conflict, a disintegration between my conscious and my unconscious mind. However, if I were to say, I really enjoy being an NLP practitioner, and every day with every client I improve my practice, I work at being better. Now my unconscious mind can support that because it's true, and my conscious mind can say it. Now we have congruity between the conscious and unconscious mind, and as Tara said, we have integration. Both the conscious and conscious mind are integrated into a commonality of thought. Now we had a request that actually segues back into yesterday's session.
But we're going to take it, so what we have here is someone saying, I'm conflicted with a decision that I've been asked to make. Is there a tool to help me with this?
So yesterday's session was on parts.
Watch yesterday, first of all. Yes. But to the point, so this type of decision, if you want to add any information, the person who wrote this, you can go ahead and add more detail if you think it will help. But by and large, when you're dealing with a decision, this is a prime example of not being able to access that unconscious part of the mind. So we talked about this, I think, I forget when. But there are some decisions that you want to make very consciously, right? So if somebody says to me, Tara, here's 2 quotes from a garage, to fix your car, and you need to make a decision about which garage to go with. I don't want to use my unconscious mind to make that decision, because that's not where I'm going to get the most accurate information, the data, to point me in the right direction, right? I want to consciously use my prefrontal cortex with all of my logic and my analysis and my thinking. I want to compare the two. I want to say, whatever my process is, right? How much money is it? What's the reviews? How much experience they have? Blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And that's the information. So if I'm stuck in indecision, it's actually like external conscious information that I need to find and get so that I can make a good decision that I feel good about. So it's important when you're faced with a decision that you first collect all of the external information, data that you need, so that you have what you must have in order to make the right decision.
If you're still conflicted at that point, part of you wants to go with the logical decision and part of you wants to go in a different direction. That's a parts conflict. That is a conflict deep inside your unconscious mind that could be value-based, it could be belief-based, it could be fear-based, it could be based in a whole number of things. Resolving that conflict between the two parts and the energy that exists between those two parts, because either part, when you move them up to their highest intention, probably have the same intention for you. So the person who asked, I'm conflicted with a decision, if, as Tara said, you gather enough information to have the logic between which is a better decision, and then you look at what is my real conflict? What are the two parts to the conflict?
So here we've just got a bit more information. So this is a redirection of job duties from what I'm currently doing to something that I'm capable of doing but don't enjoy. Financially, I need to say yes. So thank you. This is a beautiful example of the type of decision that so many of us face, right? When it's a conflict between something that we enjoy or feel more passionate about, and yet there's less financial reward or other types of reward compared to something that's going to financially reward us or whatever the various reasons are. Okay, so I would use values for this. So NLP has a really, really core use of our internal values. And so very often I find with my clients when they're up against decisions, so the first thing I would do is what I'll just describe what we did yesterday, is make sure that you don't have any like underlying beliefs. So in this case, if the financial need has something to do with a belief that you don't have enough when in fact you do, or that things, and I know this person and I know this is not likely to be true, but if you felt as though the accumulation of things or wealth or something was important to you in a way where maybe it isn't really, you want to sort that stuff out first. So make sure that when you say, so you have what we call a modal operator of necessity. You say, I financially need to say yes. And that is a shit feeling. It feels like shit when you have to do something out of need. I
need to do it, but I don't like doing it. So I have to do it.
However, if you can flip that back into choice, because the truth is you don't actually need to, even if what you're saying is, if I don't take this, my rent won't be paid, my bills won't be paid, these negative outcomes. What you still want to first do so that you get back your sense of power and a resourcefulness that will allow for you to make the best decision for yourself is to recognize that you do actually have choice. You can say yes or say no. So it's not that you need to say yes. It's still a choice of, this is the outcome if I say yes, this is the outcome if I say no.
Yes.
I'm going to choose this one, right? So that's where you want to get to. So going back to values, often my clients come in and what they're up against is they're unsure, they haven't checked in recently or maybe have never with their own core set of values.
Yes.
And so each one of us has a set of values, and they certainly shift depending on your stage
context,
of life.
time.
Obviously, my children are my first value, and they weren't 10 years ago before they existed.
I was.
The old days.
Oh, the old days. The good old days. Thank you very much.
So your values are going to shift. But at any given moment and in any context, you do have a set of values, and I promise you the hierarchy of those values, once you get them in line, two things are happening. One thing is that you may not be aware of your values, and second of all, they may not be working for you anymore. You may actually have what we would call a conflict in values. So if somebody comes to me and says, I really am in financial need, it's really, really important to me. I'm experiencing all these outcomes and results that are unwanted because of my financial station. But when I look at their values, they actually don't value money. They don't value making money, they don't value the things that the value of money. I can't
Correct.
say it any differently.
Yeah.
It's way down there in their values. So they're frustrated because they can't make it, and yet unknowingly, they've actually got it so deep and low in their values hierarchy, for whatever reason, a set of beliefs that put it there, that they're unlikely to be able to break through and make that. So
there is a hierarchy of values. You know what? We have our first value, our second, our third, and fourth. And as Tara said, they're contextual and temporal in time and space. And so it's our top 3 to 5 values that get us out of bed in the morning and get us going. So do value alignment first, the person here. I'd suggest the other thing is the decision to enjoy or not to enjoy something is a decision. It's a belief. I don't enjoy that. So to say I don't enjoy doing X means you must have decided that you don't enjoy doing X. Of course, with timeline therapy and NLP, we can go back to the decision behind a belief and find out why that decision was made. Does it still empower the person, right? And the last thing I'd suggest, because I agree 100% with Tara, in looking at values, we can find meaning and purpose in everything we do. Meaning and purpose. So sometimes there are things that we don't like doing. If we look at the meaning and purpose in doing them, that it actually allows us to do other things for ourselves and our families and our friends, then that changes the stuff that we do. There are a number of things that we have to do every day that we don't like to do, but if we look at the meaning and purpose in doing them, like cleaning. None of us like cleaning, but when you look at the meaning and purpose, the safety and cleanliness of our family, we can clean.
And this ties right back to values.
Correct.
So you may feel as though, so it feels counterintuitive because it feels as though in this situation, so for this person, it may feel as though their value of money is a lower value than the value of doing passionate work, right? Or experience or having pleasure in work or whatever it may be. And so there's a lot connected to this top value, right? Mental health, mental wellness, feeling happy, feeling, all this kind of stuff. And so that's really important. You don't want to dismiss that. I would never coach somebody into saying, well, forget about it, just ignore that. Right now you need money, so take the job and suck it up. It's never going to work that way. Even
that would cause a conflict between the conscious and unconscious mind. And we don't want conflict, we want wholeness and choice.
But what you can do is you can recognize, okay, there is value in enjoying your life and all of the things, the meaning in that. And a little bit lower is this value of money. But for the time being, it's going to serve you better to maybe move that value up. And that's something that we can do with a client quite easily, is actually just have the experience of the value differently so that it moves up in its hierarchy. We do this a lot with people's health. If they haven't prioritized their health and they need to, we can make it actually feel different. So that when you're making a choice toward money, toward health, towards something that you don't naturally have in your values, we can actually shift things in a way where it will feel really good. I've done this myself with this. And so what's really cool about it is you move, say you move money up to like a number 3 value, and you keep your job, your enjoyment of your work and that sort of thing at number 2, you may have to accept that for a little while more time is going to be spent satisfying this value. But as Al said, if what's important to you about having work that you love is that it keeps you happy, is that it gives you meaning, it gives you purpose, that it, a whole bunch of things that are associated with that, what you can do with the help of working with the unconscious mind and to just get real clarity around these things is that you recognize that by doing the job that's going to bring you your number 3 value more solidly, you just need to find more creative ways to satiate this second value.
Correct.
Which is joy, happiness, fulfillment, purpose, that kind of thing. And it's in doing this that you'll actually free up time, resourcefulness, energy, all of those things that you have, even money, to be able to spend satisfying this value. You've just got to really redesign this one, which is quite possible just through the shifting around of, first of all, eliciting and getting really clear on what those values are and what they mean to you. Getting rid, as Al said, of any beliefs that stop you from being able to experience them at their best. Yeah. and then reshaping shuffling the values in a way that are going to make you feel like every day you know that you're waking up and you are living your values.
Yeah. John Bradshaw, the famous PBS family counselor, 3 of the most successful public broadcasting system shows ever. When he was on stage, he always had a mobile up on the stage, and the mobile metaphorically represented all the pieces of our life. And he often talked about the mobile was in stasis. And I think about in our work life, we're in a mobile. We have ourselves, we have our clients, we have our family all hanging in the mobile, right? And so we're in a symbiotic relationship with our clients. Our clients have their values. Or if we were employed, our employer has their values, I have my values. And our values have to lock in and link, right? And the money that we exchange is just an energy exchange. It's indicative of what the person that you're in this symbiotic relationship will exchange for the services you offer. And as I read this request, I have a lot of emotions around it, because I know when I changed careers into the humanitarian field, I know what I wanted to do in the humanitarian field, but inevitably humanitarian organizations hired me to do something else. They hired me for my risk management ability, and not for what I wanted to offer to humanitarian organizations was creative ability to create new programs. And it was very challenging, and I went through the same purpose of what we're talking about here. So I said, what is my highest value here? Well, my highest value is to contribute. In the symbiotic relationship I was in with humanitarian agencies, what they needed was my risk management mind. And so engaging that allowed me to then move forward and do what I needed to do to reframe what I was doing. I was contributing greatly to the humanitarian organizations, allowing them to function in places that were difficult to function in. And so this is a challenge. This is a great, I'm glad this one was posted. So we have, just to do a recap, you have values. So do a value solicitation and align the values. We also have the belief structure behind I don't enjoy this. And then there's the parts, integrating the 2 parts. Part of me wants to make money and eat, and part of me wants to do work that's really enjoyable. When you get to the highest level, the highest meaning of both of those, they're probably the same. And you integrate the 2, and boom, you're away.
And what's so cool about the work that we do, so if you approach this we often suggest to people, if you have those external resources that we mentioned, like if you need more information, Al said, sometimes we would work with somebody who would bring something in and say, this really resonates with me. I'll show you, we have 2 minutes left. Good. And what we can do is align that. So as soon as you get the sense, so I would guess, if you can just put a little comment here to the person who had asked the question, if this has helped. And once you get that clarity, so once you recognize you have everything you need from the outside, but the feeling of the decision, even though you know it's right, doesn't feel right, that's where we come in. That's where using some of the tools that we showed you over the last 2.5 weeks, that's where using these unconscious, when you're dealing with those internal representations, the stuff that's happening inside, we have the ability to actually change the feeling toward it. The actual, if you want change in your emotional response. Cool, yeah. She says, yeah, it's giving me direction, thanks. If you want to actually have a different emotional response to it, then you've got to work in the unconscious part.
Absolutely.
And it's very, very, very possible to decide what's going to work best for you in your life, how you want to be, and then come to a coach like us or work with NLP, or you can certainly learn about it in a number of different ways, watch videos, and actually get a different response so that you feel as good as you want to feel with your situation. So
here, that's a good segue into, if you want to work with us, again, if you go to www.inspiredoutcomes.ca, right at the top of the page is a link to Tara and I. You can have a 30-minute complimentary consultation. So the person who posted that request, if they just want to go to that site and link a 30-minute consultation, we'll do the very thing Tara and I discussed here with you in 30 minutes, no problem at all. Anybody else who has stuff that they're dealing with, that they're up against, go to that link. We'd love to support you through these times. Administratively,
Sorry. We just got someone saying, do you have a tool to mute their wife?
No, but we can actually mute your ears. We can't change others, we can only change you. Thank you.
That's a consult for Alan. But
yeah, I'll take that consult. The other thing is, next week we're not going to be daily. We're moving next week. We were watching the viewer trends, and Tuesday and Thursday seem to be days where people can make the time to be here. So we'll be here on Tuesday and Thursday next week at 11. Just Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be putting out announcements on Instagram, Facebook, and email. Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And we do have a YouTube channel that we have newly put together, we think.
Yeah.
Sam has done for us. So all of the videos along the way are accessible there. And who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, so we'll put those posts in Facebook. Those of you who are watching in Facebook, Samantha will put those up. The link to the YouTube channel so you can watch past ones. The reminder that it's only Tuesday and Thursday. And she'll also post the link to Tara and I. But again, go to inspiredoutcomes.ca. If you're up against something, you want to talk through something, book a free consultation. We love supporting you. We're here for you. And that's 30 minutes.
All right.
All right. Maybe we should rename this 30 minutes. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.